Josh, I appreciate you joining me today. I want to start, obviously, it has been a difficult month after the loss of Charlie Kirk. How have you been processing the loss of such a close friend?
Well, Billy, it's horrific. I mean, it's horrific. It's unconscionable. I mean, it's the first time in my entire life I've had a friend murdered, let alone a friend murdered in this particular fashion, in a world changing manner. I mean, this was no exaggeration. The most high profile political assassination in America since RFK and MLK Jr. were killed in that terrible year of 1968. So for that to happen in my lifetime, and for that to happen to a personal friend, someone who I literally spoke with less than 24 hours prior, who I was being with on essentially a daily basis for a year and a half, however long it was. I mean, it's just unconscionable stuff. And what makes it particularly unconscionable is the way that just terrible, terrible human beings, some of them, have tried to seize on this moment to glom onto something that isn't there, a unicorn, and try to further their pernicious agenda. That has been, I think, the most disturbing aspect, frankly, of all this.
Yeah, I mean, this is, I think, you have the initial trauma, and then you have everything that came after this, and it's continuing to happen, where you have conspiracy theories, you have people making proclamations and claims. You have a lot of that going on social media, which you can expect, but to have prominent voices doing that, that is where it becomes even more problematic because people follow them, they believe it. And you found yourself in a position where you didn't want to be in this position, but you were posting screenshots from a conversation that Charlie was in, that you were also in. Again, you didn't want to do that, but I assume you felt compelled. What drove that decision?
Well, I didn't want to do this. I mean, very shortly after Charlie was killed, you had a lot of people. I mean, the debate over Charlie Kirk's legacy, Billy, started while his blood was still drying up. The whole thing started so quickly and obnoxiously and frankly sickeningly quickly. This debate over Charlie Kirk's legacy, and that debate, from what I could tell, centered mostly on his relationship with the Jewish people and with Israel, which is kind of disturbing in and of itself. That this is immediately where the conversation went. I mean, Charlie Kirk, yeah, he was very, very supportive of making friendships and alliances with the Jewish people. I know that because that's literally me. Like, I actually live this out on a day-to-day basis. He was vocally supportive of Israel, especially Israel's various wars over radical, fanatical Islamists, but he was outspoken on a lot of issues. I mean, why was there no grand debate that broke out after his horrific assassination when it came to his thoughts on Islam? You know, Charlie was a vociferous critic of Islam. I agreed with what he said on Islam, actually, but why was there no grand debate on that? Why was there no grand debate on his thoughts on illegal immigration or this or that? No, it immediately focused on this debate over whether his thoughts were quote unquote evolving on U.S.-Israel relations and on Jewish-Christian relations. And among the things that has happened is we all saw very recently Candace Owens acquired a screenshot from this small WhatsApp chat that I was in with Charlie Kirk. There were 7 or 8 people. I was one of them. Charlie was one of them, a few of his producers, and a couple of others. And Candace acquired these screenshots. Andrew Colvett, the executive producer of the Charlie Kirk Show, admitted that he shared the screenshots with certain people in government as part of an ongoing investigation. And somehow the messages got from the government to Candace Owens. That's a little disturbing, to be honest with you. So we'll have to figure out how exactly that happened. And Candace Owens seized on this totally out of context screenshot of Charlie Kirk being very upset that a Jewish donor was withholding his $2 million donation. And she used this as an attempt to say, oh, Josh Hammer's lying, that Charlie Kirk remained pro-Israel until his final moments.
Yeah.
But she's also holding aside that 2 hours after this screenshot, if you look at the timestamps, 2 hours after that, I and a few others were in a small Zoom chat, a small Zoom call with Charlie Kirk the night before he was killed, that Charlie organized. Charlie organized this Zoom call for the express purpose of trying to make sure that he had all the best answers, the best messaging advice for how to speak about Jewish-Christian relations and the Israel question on college campuses. Because as Charlie told me, in the final couple of years of his life, especially after October 7th, something like 50%, 50 of the question, 50% of the questions that he got on these campus tours was about Israel, which again is like another data point that makes you go, what the heck is happening out there? But Charlie wanted to make sure that he had the best ammunition possible to respond to the keffiyeh-clad crazies and whatnot there on these college campuses there. So Candace Owens' whole timeline is off. And then even after that, earlier this week, when I was offline for the Jewish holiday of Sukkot, she apparently started accusing me of complicity in Charlie Kirk's murder. And this is part of her ongoing crusade to somehow make this about the Jewish people. So Candace accused me of complicity there, and I've been dealing with horrific anti-Semites and neo-Nazis, as you can imagine, because crawling.
That was going to be my question. How is this impacting your life now that you are in the middle of this, obviously?
Yeah. Look, it's been a torrent of replies and quote tweets and people sliding into my DMs, so to speak, on social media. I don't really read any of the DMs. I don't really read any of the tweets. I immediately just mute and delete and move on. I'm certainly speaking with lawyers. I think I'm a lawyer, Billy, as you may or may not recall myself. So we'll do a little more digging into that and see whether or not I ultimately decide to bring a case there. Look, above all, what I'm most concerned with, of course, as a husband and father, is my family. You know, thankfully, I live in Florida, and you know, Florida law enforcement is aware of all this, and they are just generally amazing. But it will not shut me up, Billy. It will absolutely not shut me up. I mean, this sort of stuff will never ever shut me up. If they're trying to get me to stop talking, and they're trying to get me to confess or concede that Charlie Kirk was actually quote unquote turning on Israel, whatever they think they want me to do, I'm not going to do it. So that is ultimately what led me to release against my will. Like, I genuinely did not want to do this.
Yeah, you said that at the top of the message. You said this is not something I wanted to do, you know, which is why I reached out to you. You know, I wanted to chat with you about this because you felt like this was something you needed to do.
Yes, because I'm being accused of murdering my friend. Okay, I'm being accused of having some foreknowledge or complicity or you know, whatever this mental patient is at the trying to wink, wink, nudge, nudge, accuse me of doing, and I have to clear my name. And among the ways of clear my name was showing that Charlie Kirk's literal final messages in this WhatsApp chat were thanking us for the Zoom call that he organized to kind of bolster his pro-Israel messaging on that campus tour. Okay, so this screenshot that Candace Owens posted that she acquired from someone in the government who got it from Andrew Colvett showed that Charlie was frustrated. The Jewish donor pulled the donation. He's blowing off steam. He thinks he's in a private setting. But, you know, as the great Dennis Prager says, Billy, you don't judge someone based on their private sentiments. You judge a person based on what they do in public there. And Charlie was blowing off steam in private, and then 2 hours later, prepping for a very public showdown with the forces of anti-Western civilization, anti-Semitic insanity there. That is what you judge him for. That's the point that I was making.
Well, and let me make a point here, too. You are Jewish. You were on this message, right? You saw these messages. You were, I'm assuming, not offended. I mean, you were in this, you understood the context of these messages as you were engaging with them and with him in that chat, right? So this is not, it's not as though you were not there. You were there, you saw it. And that brings me, you can respond to that. I know we have to go in a minute here, but the question, and I know it's going to sound like a dumb question because I know how you're going to answer it, was Charlie turning on Israel? That's the question, right? So I want to throw that to you and just give you the final word on that.
Charlie was not turning on Israel for a very simple reason, which is that he was a man of faith, and his theology was coming from a very spiritually, theologically sound place when it came to the Jewish people. Charlie Kirk, Billy, kept his version of the Jewish Sabbath. I mean, he didn't observe all the various 39 levels of prohibited labor that I and other Orthodox Jews observe, but he literally turned his phone off for 25 hours from Friday night to Saturday night. He has a whole forthcoming book on the Sabbath, on honoring the Sabbath there. Charlie Kirk was someone, if you look at his social media feed, he was just as fond of quoting the book of Genesis or the book of Psalms as he was the New Testament. His Christianity was very much the Christianity of the American founding. It was the Christianity of George Washington, John Adams, Alexander Hamilton, John Jay, men who were deeply, deeply inspired by the story of the Israelites in the Hebrew Bible. And that Charlie would never, ever turn on the Jewish people or on Israel for that reason and that reason alone. Now, was he frustrated that the war in Gaza was taking a very long time to finish? For sure. Would he have been happy had he lived to see this new ceasefire hostage deal that President Trump has just orchestrated? He would be thrilled, absolutely thrilled to see that there. Was he suddenly about to become a Tucker Carlson or Candace Owens like ultra conspiracy theorist? No. On the contrary, even his final months, including at the final Turning Point USA conference that I did with him on stage at the Student Action Summit in July, he said over and over and over again, do not succumb to the mind virus. Do not let your brain rot get to the point where you are just hating on the Jews. He said that on stage with me sitting 2 feet away from there. He kept that thought in mind until the very day he died.
Josh Hammer, I appreciate you joining me. I know this is not easy to talk about, but I appreciate you doing so and being with us today.
My pleasure. Thank you.